Hello, everyone, and welcome to Partnership Track. This is a podcast where we speak to partners at different law firms to find out about their career journeys. Today, I have Pelumi. Pelumi is a barrister at Trinity Chambers, and prior to that, she was a family partner and solicitor advocate where she worked on a wide variety of private family law matters. She was ranked in the Legal 500 directory for 4 consecutive years as a next generation partner. She does a lot of work with aspiring lawyers, which includes mentoring and supporting them in the best way possible. Welcome to the podcast, Pelumi.
Thank you so much, Ife. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, and thank you for coming on the podcast. You've had a long journey in your legal career. You've gone from being a paralegal to a trainee to an associate to a partner, and now you are a barrister at Trinity Chambers. But before we get into your interesting story, can you first tell us why you wanted to be a lawyer? Like, what initially attracted you to a career in law?
That's an interesting question. I grew up in Nigeria wanting to be a lawyer. I remember myself being a very talkative child. I love to debate, and I actually have one of my report cards from when I was little that says Balumi is a good girl, but she talks too much. So
Yeah.
that seems to be what followed me a lot. But I think the turning point really was seeing what was happening around me and
Yeah.
seeing a lot of injustice. There was a lot of kind of who you know and money talking. And I saw it with my mum and the way she was treated in certain business deals and things like that, where unfairness was rife because she perhaps didn't have the voice or the power um, to be able to make things happen. And I wanted to do something where I could be a part of change, where I could um, give voice to people who didn't have a voice. And I thought following that dream and passion of saying I wanted to be a lawyer was a way to do it.
Yes. And in your journey in like being a lawyer, you faced so many rejections. You've spoken about it before, especially when you were trying to be a solicitor and when you were applying for training contracts. And this is something that loads of students are going through at the moment, especially with the current job market. So,
Yeah.
what practical steps did you take to eventually land you your first legal role?
One of the many things that I did was to align myself with the right people. I was lucky to be introduced to various lawyers, and I also um, sort of set a task for myself to go to my local courts and tribunals, to sit in there and to see lawyers do their thing, introduce myself to them, tell them that I wanted to be a lawyer, what stage I was in my career, ask them if they would be willing to be my mentor or if I could shadow them. Those were the practical steps that I took. And when I finished my studies, I was lucky to be introduced to another lawyer who I kept in touch with whilst I went to do my LPC. I would tell them how I was getting on, what I was doing, and if they had any role within their firm in which I could come and do some work experience. That was what essentially was the turning point for me, and I was offered a paralegal role for 3 months, and that 3 months ended up turning into a training contract. But it was very much being persistent and setting a goal for yourself as to, right, this is what I want to achieve, but how do I achieve it when I don't have any connections or any contacts in the legal profession? There were alternatives then as to how to do it. Things have changed now because you now
Mm,
have access to a wider pool of lawyers by the use of social media.
yeah.
Lawyers on LinkedIn are so willing to help. Whereas when I first started out, there wasn't any of that. You literally had to take those proactive steps to physically be in a court building and to see how things were going.
Yeah.
And that really did help me. And that was the practical steps that I took. But there are so many things that people can do now to align themselves with law firms and legal professionals. As I've mentioned earlier, there's social media. There's also really utilizing your universities as well. Some of your lecturers are still practicing lawyers. It's using all those contacts that you have around you if you don't have any immediate family who are in the legal profession.
Yes, and that's really good advice. And when you were, starting your career, you decided to specialize in family law. So what kind of attracted you to that area of law? Because, obviously there are different areas. What made you gravitate towards family law?
Funny enough, it wasn't actually the area of law that I wanted to specialize in when I started out. I
Yeah.
wanted to do employment law or insolvency law. Unfortunately, I didn't have any seat in those areas of law. I did my training contract in seats in wills, trust and probate, conveyancing, both corporate and commercial. Sorry, both commercial and residential conveyancing. I did a
Mm.
bit of agricultural work as well. And
Mm.
one day I was just asked to go and sit behind counsel and take notes because the other trainee couldn't go.
Yeah.
I attended with that barrister and I really enjoyed it. And they asked me if I wanted to come back to take notes again. And I said yes. Um, and ultimately, I kind of felt like, well, that could be an area of law that I do a seat in. And having a 6 months seat in family ended up being an even longer period and ended up being an area of law in which I sought to qualify in. It's very different. No 2 days are the same. I thoroughly enjoy it. You're making a difference in people's lives every single day. It is an incredibly rewarding area of law to be in. It is
Mm.
um, it's challenging, I would say, but equally, you leave work every day knowing that you have helped somebody to move forward in their lives.
Yes. So when I was like doing my undergraduate degree, I know that there was a lot of advice focused on, how to get into commercial law. And I think that's how it is at most universities. But all the other areas of law are kind of s- ignored. So what advice would you give for those people who might be considering a career in family law? What do you think they should start doing now to be able to get ahead and possibly then get work experience or then eventually get training contracts? Because a lot of the advice seems to be focused on commercial law. So what would you say for those people who are looking to get into family law?
I'd probably say just like I was given a chance to experience it. If you don't
Mm.
experience it, you won't know whether it's an area of law that you're interested in. Just like
Yeah.
when you're doing your training contract or your qualifying work experience as they call them now, or you're doing an apprenticeship. If your organization has a seat in family law, ask them if you can have a seat there.
Mm.
I tell people that I mentor to keep an open mind in relation to all areas of law. If you are fixated that this is what you want to do, then you are blocking an opportunity for yourself to consider other options.
Mm.
Read up on family law. Is it something that you are interested in? There's so many books that gives you an introduction to family law at degree level. If you're doing the LPC, for example, or you could do it as a, what do they call them? As an elective,
Yeah.
just to see whether or not it's an area of law that you will enjoy. And that will give you the grounding as to whether or not that's the sort of area of law that fits your personality. I like to think that everybody has something that fits who they are. And you will know whether this is an area of law that you will thrive in, that you will be able to not just relate to, but you know that you will do a lot of good doing it. So I would say that's probably something that you should do. But if you do know people in the family law space, ask if you could shadow them for one day. Even if it's one day you go to court with a barrister or a solicitor, just to see what it is like, or to have that work experience in a law firm and read a case file from start to finish, from the first meeting to see the problems that people have come with, the advice that's been given to them, the steps that's been taken. That will give you a flavor for what it is like, and you will know whether or not it is something that you want to do.
Yes. Thank you. And obviously, like, this podcast is, called Partnership Track, and you were once a partner at a law firm, family law firm, a law firm that did have a practice in family law. And I just wanted to ask, like, what steps did you take, or what actions or decisions were instrumental in your progression from moving from being an associate to becoming a partner at your previous firm?
With any career progression, you need to have a goal and a plan for where you want to be.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be a partner when I started out as a solicitor. I think the goal was just at the time to be good at what I do, to absorb as much knowledge as I can from those around me. And the thought of partnership never crossed my mind. But as my career changed, I then wanted more, because what is the next step for me?
Yeah.
It goes again to surrounding yourself with the right people, people who have done it before, who can give you that guidance as to what are the things that you need to start doing. One of my mentors said, for example, start collecting your receipts. So I want to be promoted. What do I need to do? Speak to your organization, which is what I did. What do I need to achieve to get to the next step? And how can you help me to get to that next step? And there's some training that I need to do. Is there a target that I need to achieve? And those are the sort of conversations that you need to be having. When you've made that decision that you do want to make that progression, you need to be aligned and to understand what is required of you, and also understanding whether or not this is what you can reasonably achieve, that you can sacrifice to be able to get there. And that way you can, it's like a ladder, you can work up towards climbing that ladder. If
Yeah.
you don't know what you need to do to get to the next step to achieve your goal, there's no way you're going to achieve it. But having the right people who are supportive, who are encouraging, who, if you have any worries about, anything you can go to, is very important. At any stage of your career, mentorship, sponsorship is very important. I had people around me within my organization then who were supportive of me being a partner, and therefore were happy to help me understand what I needed to do. And also I thought to myself, actually, to be a partner, you've got to be a leader. What is it to be a leader? I started to use a lot of listen to a lot of what's it called, podcast, leadership podcast. I did some LinkedIn learning about leadership, how to be a great leader, the qualities of a good leader, because you also need to do something to understand what you want to be able to do, so that when you are in that role, you actually can do it. And it is also a continuous learning. So whilst you're there, you also have to be prepared that I've got there now. That can't be the end of it. There has to be the opportunity for growth for you to learn some more.
Yes. And when you were working as a partner, how did you go about securing work as a partner? Because now you now have a practice, so it's not just being a solicitor and being an employee. You have to secure work. You have to engage in business development for the firm. So how did you go about that aspect?
So business development for everybody is very different. Some people are comfortable writing articles or socializing or using social media. You have to find what works for you. For me, I have no issues with doing any of the above. I used my voice on social media and clients found me that way. I would attend events and of course introduce myself and what I do and things like that. Because as a partner, obviously you've got to bring work in, because you have a team, and the work that you bring in is going to make sure that your team has sufficient work to be able to meet the business needs of the business, because the business runs by way of income. So you do need to bring work in to be able to do that. So it's the various means that were available to me. I wrote articles for magazines. I went to do speaking engagements. I did everything that I could do to showcase the skills that I have, and the knowledge that I have, so the clients can then instruct me. But I appreciate that everybody's different. So you need to find what works for you on the business development front. If you're not the type that likes to go out to big events, you can always arrange, small coffee mornings and things like that, or virtual coffees even, just like, to be able to meet with potential clients. So there are different ways that you can do that to be able to bring work in.
Yes. And would you say for someone even at my stage where I'm just beginning my career, would you say trying to build a profile on a platform like LinkedIn is essential and would help someone like me in the future?
Absolutely. You just have to be careful about what you're posting, so that it doesn't come
Yeah.
back to you in the future. You know that you are coming into a legal profession. So therefore, I would say just avoid topics that are hostile, controversial, or that will lead to some difficulties for you. Absolutely, social media is a powerful tool to use, but it also has its negative side, and it's striking that fine balance. Using it, you grow your network of not just lawyers, but also other people in the same position as you who are trying to navigate the legal profession. There's so many people who are willing to give their time to provide you with guidance and support and advice. There are also so many organizations using social media to share information that will help many students, organizations like Urban Lawyers, for example, the Brown Jacobson Fair event. There's so many, and if you're not on there, you will miss those information. So it is important to use it to be able to create a profile for yourself and a voice for yourself, because as you grow, your voice changes, your profile changes, and that will grow with you.
Yes, thank you. And so, from being a partner at a law firm, because most people say when you're a partner, like you've reached the height of your career, what then prompted your decision to transition from, being a partner at your law firm to then now transition into becoming a barrister?
So I don't know if you know this, but in Nigeria, when you are called to the bar, everybody is a solicitor and a barrister,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So growing up, that was what I saw. And for me, a lawyer then growing up was somebody who wore a wig and a gown. Not until when I relocated to the UK did I realize that actually they're two different journeys that you have to take, and you are either or. So I've always wanted to be a barrister, but the reality for me when I started out was that it just wasn't financially viable for me. But I didn't want to give up on the law, and therefore I went to become a solicitor. Not saying that one role is less than the other, both roles are equally important, and it takes a lot to be able to get there, to achieve qualifying as either a solicitor or a barrister, and the incredible work that everybody does to provide access to justice to those who need it. But I'm a keen advocate. I like to use my voice. And whilst I was able to go to court as a solicitor, you don't have the right of audience in all courts, obviously. I did undertake the higher right of audience, which gave me the opportunity to be able to represent clients in a higher court. But the reality is that I had my caseload, and it was difficult to juggle that. So I didn't use my higher rights as much as I would like to. But because this was something that I always wanted to do, it was getting to the point where, as I was getting older, I didn't want to have any regrets. And I'm very much of the school of thought that if you don't try it, you won't know. And I also have wonderful support around me by way of my family who are saying, you've got to do this. And if you don't like it, what's the worst that can happen? I can go back to being a solicitor. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. But it's the not having any regrets. And whilst I was very comfortable as a solicitor advocate and a partner, having my regular income, I wanted to do this for myself. And I also kind of wanted to do it for my children so that they can see that your dream is worth pursuing.
Yeah.
And that is why I did it.
Yes. And I know, like, for, because I'm on a track on trying to be a solicitor, but I know regardless of what route you're going through in the legal industry, it's extremely competitive. So what guidance would you give to those who are currently trying to apply for pupillage? Because I know obviously your journey was a bit different and you didn't go down the traditional path, but do you have any advice, for instance, on people who are trying to apply for pupillage, and how can they strengthen their applications and stand out in the process?
I think one of the things I would say is, because my route is very different,
Yeah.
I would be very clear, and I don't want to mislead anybody, that I cannot tell you how to deal with a pupillage application.
Yeah.
But one of the things I would stress is that you need to take up the offer of preparing for your pupillage applications from all your inns if you are members of the Inn of Court. because there's so many things that they do. They do interview, mock interviews. Take advantage of all of those. There are people like Blessing Park, who has an Instagram page called I can't remember what it's called now, but I think it's BTB on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I think she does a great video about, how to deal with applications, how to deal with rejections, because not everybody will get in the first time you apply. And it's not a reflection on you. You should be asking for feedback. That's very important, because that feedback will help you to refine where you were perhaps lacking, so the next time you go stronger. Take advantage of all the offer of help that you get. And if you are applying to a particular set of chambers, you need to do your research properly about the chambers. You need to know what they do, know about them, what kind of cases have they dealt with. If they've won awards, for example, for particular cases, why was that case of particular interest? Just make sure that you're going fully informed about the set and why the set aligns with what you want to achieve, and where you see your career. But take advantage, I genuinely would say this, take advantage of all the pupillage interviews. There's so many organizations that offer, mock interview sessions. Take advantage of those to be able to get yourself more comfortable and get enough sleep the night before your interview.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we all get so stressed out about it. And I do this. I'm being honest. I do it as well, where I get very, very, het up about it, and then sleep late, and then in the morning you're absolutely exhausted. You need to be ready for it. Go in with a clear head. Do all your preparation and get a good night the night before it.
Yes, and I guess also, like, just in addition to that, I guess networking with other barristers as well, and just asking them for advice, especially at the chambers that you are looking to work at, like that is also really helpful as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy for you to find who the pupils are in the chambers you're interested in. Look at the website, find them, connect with them on LinkedIn. Can I just ask you 1 or 2 questions about your interview? How did that go? What did they ask you? Is there anything in particular I should be preparing for? And, you'd be surprised that people are so forthcoming. Everybody wants to assist, but if you don't ask, you won't get, right?
Yes. And what skills did you gain from being a partner at a law firm that you felt gave you an advantage at the bar? And also, what skills did you suddenly realize you had to develop from scratch?
Oh, that's an interesting question. What skills did I have? I think it's just the experience that I've had doing the area of law that I do. And also being so senior as a solicitor. I was so used to working on my own at times. So flying solo on my own at the bar, I'm not daunted by it. It was a bit tricky at the beginning because I was used to being in an office, open plan office, and to either be in court or at home, I needed to start getting used to the sound of my own silence. And I've become so used to that because it's been a year now. So that was the things that I kind of needed to adjust to. But in terms of, what was the other question?
And like, what skills did you suddenly have to realize that you had to develop from scratch?
It's consuming information very quickly and being able to brain dump to move on to the next thing. That was one of the things I was quite concerned about, actually, when I wanted to transfer. I thought, oh my God, will I be able to do that, where I'm picking up a case, take it all in, do my hearing, do my note, pass it back to the solicitor, and then move on to the next thing? Will I be able to do that? Will I have the time to do that? And the reality is, you just do it. When I started out, some of my colleagues were like, don't worry, you'll see, you'll be fine, it's going to be fine. And I'm like, how? And you start doing it, and then you realize, actually, I've done it now, that one's gone, and I can move on. And I said to one of my colleagues, I was trying to remind her about a case that I shadowed her on. She was my pupil mistress, And I said, oh, do you remember this case that we did together? Which I shadowed you on. And she said, what case? Can't remember. That's how quickly you move on, because you've got, until you see the papers again, you know, taking it in and then getting the work done and moving on to the next one was something that I thought my brain would not adjust to, but it did.
Mm.
It did. The brain is an interesting, interesting
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. And how did you navigate other people's perception of your career choices? So, like, what advice would you give to people who are thinking of pivoting, but they feel that they won't get the support that they would need?
It is a daunting thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think for me, coming from being a partner and somebody who was very out there, I was pretty much everywhere. I was invited to every event and things like that. And then taking a step back to transfer to the bar. I had so much support there, you know, but there were people that didn't understand why I was doing it, because, as you say, you're a partner.
Yeah.
Why why are you starting afresh? But nobody needs to understand your why. It's very much a personal choice.
Yeah.
And I think if we spend so much time worrying about what other people think or people's perception of what we do, we will find ourselves stuck in a rut. And it's very important that we make our own choices about where we want to be.
Yeah.
I was very much of the view that if you don't support me, I'm still the same Pelumi. Nothing's changed about me. It's just the title that's changed. And maybe, as I said in my post recently, my color palette in terms of the outfits that I wear, not so
Yeah.
bright anymore.
Mm.
But I'm still the same me.
Mm.
Um, and if you don't understand that I had to make a choice for my life and you don't support that, then that's on you, really. You know,
Mm.
as long as you're not paying my bills, I actually do not care what you think about what I do.
Yeah.
Um, some people may be worried about what if they fail, and that's a thought that crosses my mind all the time. What if
Yes.
this doesn't work out, and I have to go back to being a solicitor? Well, there was nothing wrong with being a solicitor. I absolutely enjoyed my job. It was an incredible, role that I had. I had some amazing clients. I dealt with some incredible work, um, and my skills isn't lost. It's still there, and I can go back to doing that at any point. And I'm not afraid to go back to do that, and it will not be a failure if that should happen.
Yeah.
Um, and that's very important. If you decide to pivot and things don't work out, life goes on. It's
Yeah.
not the end of the world. As long as you are happy, that's what's important.
Yes. And like at the end of the day, you only have one life to live. So if you spend it worried about other people's perceptions, like you're never going to actually get anything done. So yes,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Well said. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Pelumi, for coming on the podcast, for telling us your story and also just giving advice to aspiring solicitors, aspiring barristers. You've had an interesting career, and thank you for all you do in terms of mentorship. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me.